Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Today is March 20th, 2021. The S&P 500 made another new all-time high and closed with a new closing high this week. After this new high, it ended the week with a loss. So once again, many market participants are wondering, was that the top? In this S&P 500 analysis video, we will analyze the price action of the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, and other major market indexes along with the market sentiment and the market internals, and see if the S&P 500 made a top this week. We'll also look at the US dollar, gold, silver, and Bitcoin at the end of this video. Stay tuned. Let's get an overall weekly overview on the S&P 500 before we proceed. The S&P 500, as you can see from this candle here, it lost a little bit over 30 points for the week, or 0.77%. But it did close with a higher low from the previous week and also put in a new all-time high at a level of 3983.87. And it is still one time framing up and above this 10-week moving average and also this 40-week moving average, and also above this long-term megaphone channel. So on a weekly basis, the trend is still up. Let's look at this 15-minute S&P 500 chart and the VIX here. In the previous video, we talked about this level here, that the previous week, Thursday, it broke about this level and put in a new all-time high, and it came back down on that Friday of that week. Then it proceeded with a close with a new closing high. Then this Wednesday, it came up and put in that new all-time high. And right now, on Friday, it came back in. And once again, it came back down and closed near this breakout level, this resistance here, and also turned into support. So right now, it's basically sitting at that level once again. And as you notice that the VIX is also sitting just slightly above this 20 level, and it did dip below the 20 level earlier in the week. See, from Tuesday and even on Thursday, it was down below the 20 level. Then as it head toward the close, it came up, and then on Friday, it spiked up a little bit near the 24 area above the 23. Then it came back down. Now let's go and take a look at the other sentiment, the put-call ratio, and also the market internal, and see what they are telling us. On this daily chart of the S&P 500 and also on the VIX and the put-call ratio, so the VIX dipped down to that below this 20 level as we saw from the previous chart, and right now it's basically back just slightly above this 20 level. Finished the week at 20.95. But look at the put-call ratio. The put-call ratio has been sitting between this 0.5 and 0.55 level for quite a while. And right now we are seeing it starting to come up a little bit. It closed on Friday at 0.635. So we can see that there are a little bit more put buying from the market participants. Looking at the up-down volume ratio, Friday we got a that's a little bit of a down day, a couple points, and the up-down volume ratio favors slightly toward the down volume, and also the daily advanced decline. You see on Friday, although it closed negative 2 points, but it did end up with a little bit of a positive on the advanced decline. There was 258 more advancing issue than declining issue. Looking at the New York Stock Exchange, new 52-week high, 52-week low. We can see on Friday there were 64 more new high than new low. But on Thursday, we saw that big down day. We actually end up with 303 more new 52-week high than new 52-week low. But it did contract quite a bit on Friday. So this is another sign that the market is getting a little bit soft, a little weak. Now, looking at the New York Stock Exchange cumulative AD line, remember from Wednesday that new high, that new closing high by the S&P 500, we did see that the cumulative advanced line failed to put in a new high. So we saw a slight negative divergence, and then we got a confirmation of that on by Thursday. So right now we are seeing a negative divergence between the S&P 500 and the cumulative AD line. Looking at the Nasdaq up-down volume ratio, we see the Nasdaq had a good day on Friday. It was actually up 0.61% or 77 points. And the up volume was 3 times more than the down volume. And the advancing issue led the declining issue by 1,044. So all in all, it was a pretty good day for the Nasdaq on Friday. But similarly to the New York Stock Exchange, the new 52-week high and 52-week low, it contracted. There was only 49 more new highs than new low. The Nasdaq cumulative advanced decline line showing no abnormality here. So we're basically just keeping an eye on it to see would it be able to come up and maybe show some sign of positive divergence. And when it does put in some positive divergence, then we could get a sense that maybe the repricing of those tech stock might have come to a completion. So all in all, with the sentiment is showing a little bit of risk off and starting to build some hedges from the market participant, and also the softness in the advanced decline, that kind of throw a little bit more caution in the wind for the market. And we basically have to be prepared for a little bit more downside in the near term. So now let's go and take a look at the price action of the S&P 500 and the other major market indexes. Looking at this daily S&P 500, we see the price came down to this trend line here on Friday and got a nice bounce off of it, and pretty much closed at a with a little bit of a doji. So right now we basically are looking to see would it be able to hold above this trend line here next week. And if it doesn't, if break this trend line, then we're basically looking for the first level of potential support, be somewhere around this 38.70. So we'll be looking to see would it get a bounce and probably try to come back up to get above this trend line, and might get a rejection here near that 3,900. And then pushes back down, then we be watching this 3784 level for the next potential support area. And if that doesn't hold, then we're essentially looking for this 3720. And ultimately, we are looking for a pullback down to this lower trend line, the lower channel trend line down at this level. But right now, it's still too early to talk about what that level might be. But right now, we essentially continue to concentrate on these 3 levels here, the 3870, 3784, and 3720. Now, if it bounces back up and pushes to the upside, and we basically looking for this closing high level at 3973.96, then the round number of 4,000. Then, if it continue to push, then ultimately we are looking at this upper channel trend line here, close to this 4,050. Looking at this daily chart of the Nasdaq 100, you see the Nasdaq 100 came down to this zone, got a nice bounce off of it, come back in, sitting at the 12,786 area. So right now, we're going to see would it be able to work itself back up to this 13,280 and possibly get back above this zone and work toward filling this gap here near the 13,500 area. But if it just a little bit of a dead cat bounce, and we see that it continue to move below this 12,086 next week, then the next level of support we'll be watching will be this 12,439 area. And then if that doesn't hold, we'll be looking at this 12,204. So those are the levels to keep an eye on. Is on the upside, watch the 13,280, and then on the downside, the break of 12,786, and then 12,439 for first level of support, and then the next level of support at 12,204. The Russell 2000 also had a nice bounce on Friday and got a bounce back up. Right now, we're still looking at this trend line here, somewhere around below this 2250 to see would it come down and test this trend line. If it breaks this trend line, then we'll be looking at this 2194 or 2195 area, possibly get back into this channel. Then maybe it will work itself back down to this area near the 2100 area. So that's basically what we will keep an eye on for the downside for next week. But if it does bounces back up, then once again we'll be looking at the 2360.2, the new closing high, the all-time closing high for the Russell 2000. The Dow Jones Transportation been flirting with this all-time closing high of 14,242.67 on Thursday and Friday. Both of those days, the transportation was trying to close with a new closing high, getting above this 14,242, and was unable to close at that high. It did, went above it on both of those days. And as a matter of fact, on Thursday, it put in a new all-time high. And it pulled back on Friday. So right now, we're basically still keeping an eye on it to see if would it be able to come back up and close with a new all-time closing high above the 14,242.67 and work its way up to this 14,500. But if it decides to pull back, then we'll be watching this 13,656.57. That's the first level of potential support. And if that doesn't hold, eventually we'll be watching for it to come back down to the lower channel trend line here at this 13,208. Looking at the Dow Jones Industrial, similarly to the Dow Jones Transportation, it failed to close with a new all-time closing high, which is sitting at 33,012.61. So right now it pulled back and got a little bit of a bounce off of this intermediate channel upper trend line. So we'll see would it be able to get another push and get back above this closing high here, the all-time closing high above this 33,012.61. And if it can't get back above that and take out the all-time high, we're essentially looking for this thing to pull back into this channel and possibly come down to this lower trend line here near the 31,668. Now, notice that on Wednesday, it did close with a new high. That new high is a unconfirmed new Dow theory high. So that will put a question mark on that new high. But it did confirm with the S&P 500 because on Wednesday of last week, the S&P 500 also closed at a new all-time closing high. Now, before we go and take a look at the US dollar, let's take a look at this 10-year Treasury index. This is basically the yield of the 10-year Treasury. Right now, on the axis is basically is multiplied by 10. So we just need to move the decimal point one place to the left to get the rate. So on Friday, it closed at 1.732. It came up a bit. And there is a possibility for this to continue to move up and get up to this 1.947. I will not be surprised to see this 10-year Treasury to move up to close to this 2.0%. Now, let's take a look at the US dollar. You see the US dollar is still trying to get into this 92, get above this 92.11, this zone that I have basically between the 92 and 94. I'm saying that it has to come up to this 92 and then move up to this 94 area. And when it gets close to this 94, we probably could see that 10-year Treasury yield up at that 2% area. If it come up to this 94, I expect to see some sort of rejection and push it back down to the 92. So I wouldn't be surprised that they come up to this 94, get rejected and pushes back down to this 92, then ultimately come back down to this 91. So if next week, if it's unable to get above this 92 and start pulling back, then this 91 would be the level that I will keep an eye on, this 91.24, right? And then eventually get back into this zone here, this particular zone between 91.20 and 89.74. So then I'd be watching for the dollar to come back down to somewhere around this 89.74, close to the 90 level. Now, a lot of people basically been trying to correlate the US dollar to gold. Sometimes there is correlation there because gold correlate to many things. So sometimes it does, if the dollar is weak, then gold will go up and vice versa. So right now we're seeing gold is still trying to hold above this $1,700 level, and I'm still looking to see would it be able to get back above this 1804. And if it cannot get above this 1804, I'm looking at this thing basically trapped between this level 1804 and the 1700. And if it breaks the 1700, this trend line here, then I'll be looking for gold to come down to 1546 or that 1550 area. Because here you can see that here's this trend line here. So essentially, if it breaks this trend line and get below this somewhere around the 1670 area here, then I'm essentially looking for this thing to looking for gold to come down to this 1546 area. But if it could stay above this 1700 and then pushes up to this 1804, then maybe we could see it trying to climb back up to this 1923 area. There could be quite a strong resistance up here near this 1800 area. So we'll see would it be able to stay above this 1700 area first. Looking at silver, you see silver staying above this $26 and also holding this trend line here. And if silver could continue to push up, get it back above this 27, I could see silver, make its way back up to this 29.50. But if we break this trend line, then I'd be looking at this 24.71 area and possibly even make it back down to this 22.70 area here, this 22.70. So if it come down, then I'd be watching for a retest of the 22.70 area. And here looking at Bitcoin, you see Bitcoin came up to this close to 62,000 and retreated back all the way down to 53,000. So right now it's trying to make its way back up to this 60,000 area, and seems to have a little difficulty here last week to try to get above that 60,100. So it came back down to 58,000 area, and we're going to see what it be able to hold above this 58,000. If it doesn't hold, then I'm expecting it to come back down to this 55,000 area and possibly get back down and retest this trend line here near the 53,000. But if it could get above this 60,000 area, then I'm looking forward to possibly break this high and get above the 62,000. So that's basically what I'm looking at on Bitcoin. The key level to watch is the 58,367. Essentially, would it be able to hold 58,300? If it dipped below that, then I'm looking at these downside level down here. So you're probably still wondering, was the Wednesday high from the S&P 500, was it a top? Well, based on the sentiment, it's definitely the market participant getting a little bit edgy, and they're starting buying more put. That could be a beginning of putting on some hedges on their long positions. Right? We still need to wait for the put-call ratio to get above that 0.75 and see the market participants starting to take risks off and getting a little bit more fearful. The other thing is on the advanced decline, we are seeing a little bit of a softness on the advanced decline. As the market move higher, we're getting less and less of the advancing issue pushing up the market. So that kind of give a little bit sign that the market is getting tired. We also notice an unconfirmed Dow theory high, closing high by the Dow Jones Industrial. So that also throw a little bit caution in the wind. The bond market is spooking the stock market. So we could see a little bit more near-term downside for the stock market as the bond yield continue to move up. So we'll keep an eye on that 10-year yield to see, would it get up to that 2% level? And once it get to that 2% level, would it reverse and start making its way back down? Now, the other thing is we have been watching the E-mini S&P 500 future. And in the recent past, we have noticed a certain sign from the E-mini S&P 500 that kind of give us a clue to keep an eye out for new high from the S&P 500 and of course from the E-mini S&P 500 future as well. Whenever during the Globex hour, the non-regular trading hour session that the E-mini S&P 500 put in an all-time high, the regular hour session on the E-mini S&P 500 will need to come up and tag that all-time high that was made in the extended hour, the Globex hour. So that kind of gives us a clue that the market or the S&P 500 still have a new high coming. So last week, we are still looking for that. And here's the chart that I want to show you. Here's the E-mini S&P 500. And this is a market profile chart, but we're not going to get into analyzing this chart here. What I want to point out is on March the 17th, right? This right here, March 17, we saw the E-mini S&P 500, and this is the June contract. Okay, came up and put in a high of 3,978.5. And as you could see that it hasn't been taken out yet, all these highs from the regular trading hour session have not come up and tagged this all-time Globex high. So that gives us a clue that after a maybe a near-term pullback from the S&P 500, we could see another upward push into a new closing high when this E-mini S&P 500 move above the 3978.50. So the answer to the question, did the S&P 500 made a top last Wednesday? Based on what we are seeing right now from the future, the E-mini S&P 500, the answer is no. The probability is that we should be on the lookout for another new high from the S&P 500. And from the indication of this Globex high on the E-mini S&P 500 future, it indicates that the Wednesday all-time closing high by the S&P 500 might not be the last closing high for this cycle. So I hope you found this video to be informative and useful, and be sure to click that thumbs up to help me promote and share this video. Thank you for watching and stay safe.